So we'll let Grayson do his job. Frank will be down shortly, and he'll start rolling on. So we'll give about a 5-minute break and rolling. Projections are when we finish before 12 o'clock. Should be before 12 o'clock. We'll have our drawings. What we'll do at the end of the last session, we'll ask you to take your name badge, take your card out of your lanyard and everything, Bob, that way. We'll put it in a bucket and we'll have drawings and take place on our stuff, what's left over here, and giveaways and Bob that way. I'll say it now, I'll say it later too. I appreciate all of you doing this. Most of you, if you don't know, I'm Eddie Hill. I'm in charge of all this stuff that's going on. I've been doing it for many years, trying to get things rolling. And I'll say this to you. If you have any suggestions, because I do not mind listening to you, we try to put things together. You cannot be afraid to suggest this, suggest this, suggest this. What do you think about the schedule we've got? Does it work? Doesn't work? Do you have this speaker? Would you say this person? Just feedback. The more feedback we get, we're trying to make it as best we can for you guys. It's not just for one person, it's for everybody. We can't please everybody, and I do this for that part, but we got to sit in so we can get everything done for as many as we can. That's our goal. Because very partial guys have been in this business many years, but high school baseball in South Carolina is very special to me, and you guys are special to me also, for the details on that. So, without me being said, we'll probably say something later, but Grayson, you guys are on me, guy. Been doing this guy many years. It's one we tried to get about 8 years ago. I'm trying to think 8 years ago, but you had to go up to Detroit and do something that's schedule-wise. So we got a chance to bring him back on board. I always say the idea, he's one of us, guys. He's one of the local South Carolina boys. That's the good part about it. And he had a chance to make it up that level, which is super. And I'll say some other things too. Him and his dad and I coached together and played with the school together. So we know all the details about him. Okay? Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Grayson, you're on.
Perfect. Morning, everyone. Hope everyone had fun last night. It was cool meeting some new people and catching up with some old faces. Like Eddie said, I'll be a little shorter this morning, quite frankly. I enjoy talking about catching a little more than hitting. Hitting can be, you can ruffle some feathers. I'm sure everyone sees kind of the teacher man fights online and all that. So there are some things I believe in. First thing there's no exact way to hit. There's some things I believe in as a hitter that are absolutes, but for the most part, a lot of people are going to hit different ways. It's all about, what makes these guys successful. Just like I said, general thoughts. Hitting, it's not a cookie cutter business. I'm going to hit a lot different than Jose Altuve is going to hit. He's going to hit a lot different than Mike Trout. But at the end of the day, kind of at their launch position, at contact, they're going to have a lot of things that are similar that we're going to get into a little bit today. But I'm a firm believer the absolute number one quality of a good hitter is strike zone discipline. All right, so when I was calling pitches, it was infinitely easier to call pitches to Javier Baez than it was to Juan Soto. Javier Baez swung at everything. Juan Soto, if it was that far outside or that far above the zone, he didn't swing. And it's easier said than done, but when you can train in the cage to hone in your strike zone discipline, it just makes it so much easier. And as hitters, we tend to give pitchers a lot more credit than they really need to get. And we expand the plate, we take it from 17 inches to 27 inches. That makes hitting a whole hell of a lot harder than if we only swing at strikes. So when you're hitting with your guys in the cage, I call it swing mode. We never want to just be in swing mode where I'm swinging with no purpose. Shrink the plate. I do a thing with my guys when I get less. It's called zone hitting. So zone hitting, where I'll put 3 baseballs on the plate and say you can't swing if it's not on those 3 baseballs. And then after each swing, they got to tell me did it cross ball 1, 2, or 3. And that's just a way to learn the strike zone. Because if I just get in there and hit 15 swings with no purpose and no game plan to learn the strike zone, it does me no good. Said yesterday in my catching talk, you can't go for 4 or 4-4 in the cage. Results in there don't matter. Experiment all the time, right? You talk about guys like Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods won 4 majors in a row, and he made a complete swing change, right? The best, the elite of the elite, are always trying to gain an edge, tinker. I was talking to Christian Walker last week. He's one of the biggest tinkerers I've ever met, and he just continues to try and find an edge to his game. So experiment in the cage with different things. Watch video. Try and do what those guys do. Just try something different, see if it can help you. When you get into the game, that's when we want to simplify it. you do all your work in the cage to try and make the game. You know, you do your work in the cage, that's your studying, the game is your test. You never want to go to a test unprepared. When you get in the game, one of the worst things you can do is be a guy that's like, all right, where are my hands, where's my foot? In a game, it's just you want it to be approach-oriented where you have some mental cues versus the physical cues. And kind of the three controllables I tried to hold myself to every at bat. Did I swing at a good pitch? Did I get my head swing off? Was I ready to hit? All right, if I do those three things every single time, good things generally are going to happen. It's not going to happen all the time, but generally that's where I'm putting myself in a situation where I might have some success. Don't become numbers obsessed, right? It's an old cliche. You know, if you sacrifice your at bat for the team, for the betterment of the team, good things are going to happen. That is absolutely true, and it's hard to do, especially going through the minor leagues where it's all about yourself and your individual numbers getting up to the big leagues. When I was at my best, and when everyone was at their best, was when they're giving their at bats away for the team and what's best for the team. Don't get it twisted. Hitting a baseball is the hardest skill in all sports. You got to be confident and you got to be positive. And like I said, it's easier said than done when you're in a 0 for 20 slump to be confident and positive. But a lot of times you got to kind of trick yourself into saying I'm the best player on the field, even if you're not the best player on the field. You got to tell yourself that. Baseball is just a game of a lot of one-on-one battles wrapped up in the team sport, and there's no bigger one-on-one battle than pitcher versus hitter. It's the genesis of our game. So you got to be confident, positive that you're better than the guy on the mound. Lastly, know your strengths and weaknesses as a hitter. Accentuate what you do well. I was a guy, I hit the fastball well. I could not hit a breaking ball if I saved my life. But I knew that, so I tried to not miss the fastball, right? Sometimes I'd hit a breaking ball, sometimes I'd hit a changeup, but I tried to accentuate what I did well. What I did well was hit the fastball for power to the pull side, and that's what I tried to do. So general offensive approach, back to that. Generally at the high school, or especially at the high school level, don't get off the fastball. I could be wrong, and tell me please if I am, but at the high school level, I didn't face too many guys that could land breaking ball after breaking ball for strikes. So, like I said, the best way to hit the breaking ball is don't miss the fastball. But what we could start to see trickle down to college and high school, I think 2022 is the first time ever major league pitchers are throwing more off-speed pitches than fastballs. The game is changing up there, and it's probably going to start trickling down as guys, they're working with the drive lines of the world and all these, they'll start throwing more breaking balls. But prior to 2 strikes, trust in your approach and looking to do damage to the big part of the field. It's a very, very general and simple way to think about it, but a good baseline approach. I get a lot of young kids, we want to try and hit the fastball to the opposite field gap. It generally keeps me a little bit on time to give me a chance to hit the all-speed pitch. Our approach should really start, 3 batters in advance. I usually hit 5, 6 in the order. I would start really paying attention, batter 2, 3, 4, because I want to visualize, all right, if these 3 guys get on, I got bases loaded, 1 out, and they're bringing in a lefty out of the bullpen, what's my approach going to be? I don't want to be a guy that's just sitting on the bench, oh, now I'm on deck, and I don't know what's going on. So that approach really should start 3 batters in advance and visualize what it's going to be, and our approach is going to change pitch to pitch, at bat to a bat, game to game. It's not, this is my approach every single at bat, right? If I'm hitting, I got a guy on first base, leadoff single, and now I'm up the plate. My approach is going to change a lot if he now steals second base. Now I'm selling out to do whatever I can to hit the ball to the opposite field to get that guy to third. That is, from every level I played at, and I'm sure a lot of y'all, if I got a guy on second base with no outs, I'm doing anything to get that guy to third base with less than 2 outs. That's a way we can get a run a lot easier with a man on third than a man on second. Again, it changes. If it's a 10-0, if we're down 10-0 in the 6th inning, I'm not really trying to give it a bat away to get that guy to third. So it's going to change it at bat to a bat and depending on the game situations. Last thing about kind of general offensive approach. First pitch when I talked about it in my catching presentation yesterday. From the catcher's perspective, I talked about how the Twins wanted us to throw the ball right down the middle, first pitch every time. Now thinking on the offensive side, a lot of time that's going to be one of the better pitches you're going to get. So I don't necessarily know the right answer to that. I think it depends on the situation, depends on the guy, but first pitch is kind of always a big talking point in hitting. A full count dilemma. This was a really cool thing I picked up in 2022 with, I think I was in AAA with the Diamondbacks. We had a young hitting coach who I really liked. And he sat us all down as a team one time and showed us all of our individual numbers. In a full count, in AAA with the Diamondbacks, we had a kind of a team rule. We almost treated it like an auto take. And our whole team had career highs in walks and on-base percentage. 3-2 count. He said, unless the pitcher throws you a fastball right down the middle, I want you to take it. He showed us the numbers. On borderline pitches, we all hit like under 100 in 3-2 counts. And half the time, the umpires would miss the call the ball, we get a walk. So he's like, I want you to kind of play the odds here. As hitters, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves in 3-2 and think we got to expand the zone and protect. It's kind of an eccentric, off-the-wall type of method, but like I said, it was the most walks of my career and highest on base. Try and treat 3-2 a little bit more like look for something good to hit, because you know how many times y'all see your players 3-2 chase a breaking ball out. So now I just struck out with a weak tapper. That could have been a walk, right? So that full count win is another thing to think about. Learning how to swing and miss. This is something I talk about a lot with the young kids I work with. I would much rather a guy swing and miss at a 0 fastball trying to do some damage than slow their bat down and just kind of take that ass out swing to make contact. Young hitters are so afraid of swinging and missing that they give at bats away. You only get 4 bats a game. I don't ever want to give a bat away just to sell out and make contact. And when we get 2 strikes, that changes. We want to kind of sell out for contact. But learning, I've heard Manny Ramirez talk about learning how to swing and miss, learning how to set up pitchers. It's embarrassing, quite frankly, in the cage when you're swinging and missing in front of your teammates. But I'd much rather a guy be aggressive trying to do damage, swing and miss, and then go from there. And then lastly, with training and practicing, kind of that good mix of feeling good versus challenging yourself. Talked about it yesterday. You know, pitchers are getting better than they've ever been. They're throwing harder, their breaking balls are better. I've got to challenge myself in the cage to give myself a chance to have success in the game. I kind of call it the 80-20 rule. I want to do 80%, challenging myself off the machine, putting myself in angled situations in the cage, and then 20% kind of those feel-good swings before the game, give yourself confidence going out. And a lot of time, the equipment that you have available at your program is going to dictate what you're able to do to challenge yourself. So lastly, before we get kind of into the physical, just some mental cues I was talking about earlier. We don't want to get bogged down in the game with complicated swing thoughts. We want to have very generic approaches. Examples: fastball right center, give up the inner third, don't get off the fastball, things like that. Have your kids, encourage your kids to talk to their teammates, talk to the coaches to help shape those approaches. If I got a teammate that comes in after a bat and says, this guy's slider is nasty, his fastball doesn't have a ton of ride, I'm going to probably look for his fastball, right? So talk to your team, or have your kids talk to themselves to help shape those approaches. How to reset. This is a huge thing, as you see nowadays. If you ever watch a college game or pro game and we see guys breathing a lot, breathing is huge, right? You hear guys talk about being in the zone at the highest level. Breathing is a big part of that. When I was with the Tigers, we had the director of the Navy SEALs, who was our mental game coordinator. He showed us a ton of cool things about learning how to reset your mind. He talked about picking out an acute location or a small object to stare at in between pitches to help reset your mind. Mine, you can see that picture there. Mine was always just spinning the bat, picking up the lettering on my bat, and just breathing. That just helped me reset. Maybe my approach changed. Maybe now I got 2 strikes, and now I'm able to clear my mind and really focus on what I want to do. And it allows those, like I said, those swing thoughts to adjust pitch to pitch. Sure, you could ask your kids all the time. They'll get in the box, strike out, get bat in the dugout. You could ask them, what were you thinking right there? And they'll have no idea. And I'm guilty of it. I've had bats like that. Get too caught up in the moment, adrenaline's pumping too much, and I didn't allow myself to reset and breathe and think about what I'm trying to do. So, start to get into the mechanics offensively. One of my biggest pet peeves when I'm working with kids in the cage is they just swing, swing, swing. I love when a guy will take a swing, back out, go through his routine, whatever it is. Mine was outside of the plate, inside of the plate, front foot. And it only takes 3 seconds, but if I do that 150 times a game, it goes back to being prepared for the test. It gives me just a sense of calm preparedness when I get in the box, because I've been doing this every day. The same thing every day. Develop that routine in the cage to where, when I get in the game, I feel comfortable. When we start talking about the swing itself, before we go to swing, obviously everyone in here knows we got our load, our stride, and our launch position. Our launch position is just when the front heel strikes. We want to feel separation between that front foot and those hands to get that kind of that rubber band stretch feeling. In the next slide, you'll see some videos of big leaguers doing it. I want y'all to pay attention. Just the way I describe it is whatever distance between my hand and my front foot. If we got a tape measure and measure that, it's probably 5 feet. I want that number to grow. Right? If it's at 5 feet, I want to get that number to 6.5. Right? I never want, what we see a lot is when that front foot goes forward, guys' hands will come with them. That's when I get that pushy, smothering, steep feeling with my swing. So just pay attention. You see here, we got Barry Bonds, obviously best hitter ever. That front foot's going forward, that distance is growing. Mookie Betts, same thing. Lindor, same thing. And a lot of what I see, when I'm working with kids is they have a hard time learning how to load their hands separate from their body. A lot of kids will load their hands like this, just connected with their shoulders. We want our hands, look how fluid and free Lindor's hands are there. Those hands are working independently of their body, flowing back. But I wish I had a video. There's a video of Miguel Cabrera that really shows that you draw a yellow line of that loose rubber band stretching into that tight rubber band. It's a really cool visualization. Obviously, I had the pleasure of playing with Miggy for 4 years. Played with some really good players, and a lot of what I'm going to talk about here are just drills I saw them do, things I picked up through those playing days. But these are just really great examples of that stretching the rubber band feeling. So a couple drills to work on that. One of my favorites is knob to knee. You do this on tier flips. You simply take the knob of the bat to the knee right here, and all you're doing is slowly stretching that rubber band until I'm ready to fire, right? So one of the biggest problems I see, that third bullet point there, kids will fall forward. They don't take their time to go like that. And then the hands are coming with you, and I'm heavy on that front foot. So learning how to control this back quad and slowly stretch. The whole purpose of this drill is just to feel that feeling, stretching that rubber band and then firing. Pencil drill, that's just what I call it. I don't know if it has a real name. Very similar. All I do on that one is I literally just put my feet together. I'm standing straight up and down like a pencil. From here, two things can happen, right? My foot's going that way, my hands are going that way. Just trying to continue to feel that separation, just another version of that same drill. And then free-flowing hands is one I use for when I work with kids that hands are really stagnant, right? When I was talking about not being able to disassociate the shoulders and the hands, free-flowing hands, I'll just have to kind of flow the bat down here, and then when their bat goes forward, just keeping those hands in rhythm the whole time, keeping the hands moving. Like I said, a lot of guys get real robotic and stagnant with those hands. So those are just a couple drills working on, the pre-swing load stride launch. Here you'll see just kind of our ideal launch position. When I was at the very beginning, I said there's a lot of different ways to hit. If you pull up however many big league hitters there are and freeze them at their launch, they'll all look pretty similar to this, right? Good reference point. You got the knob of the bat pointed right at the catcher's mask about every time. Good athletic stance. Weight's not going forward onto their front foot. Chest and head are connected more towards the back side of the body. These are just kind of, when you're filming your hitters or watching your hitters, I would suggest freezing them at their launch position and seeing if they're getting into a position similar to this. This is kind of the best of the best. Mike Trout, Ketel Marte, Juan Soto, Paul Goldschmidt. This is kind of what we want it to look like. So bat path. This is one of, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of the physical, mechanical part of the swing. Arms and hands staying tight to the body, and we want to turn behind the ball and not push our hand. Like I said, that smothering steep swing. Everybody in here has heard it. The merry-go-round versus the Ferris wheel. We want Freddie Freeman's the best I've ever seen at having that Ferris wheel type swing, where I'm working inside and up and not out and around. I tell kids all the time, it's almost like two completely separate swings. When I have that out and around swing, when I leave my body, that bat only has one place it can go. I'm going to have an extremely flat bat at contact, which growing up, everyone said you want to have a flat swing. In actuality, you really don't want to have a super flat swing, because then now my pat's working only in one direction, and my adjustability is completely gone, right? So good spine angle, you can see it right here. This is kind of, I remember Coach Lee, years ago, Monty Lee was talking about spine angle, and I asked him, I was like, what the heck is spine angle? It's literally just the angle of your back I used to think about having just a little pinch in my lower back and creating a little bit of an ab crunch when I load to get that spine angle. When my bat is straight up and down, I can really only rotate like this. And then that's kind of in the swing, and it's this way. Whereas if I can get that spine angle here, now I can rotate like this to get those arms inside and stay close to my body. And that really helps with your bat path. If my chest is straight up and down, it's going to be real hard to get my hands inside and stay strong and connected with my swing. Top palm punching through the ball, not facing the ground. So, saw a video the other day on Instagram of Mookie Betts in the cage. All he was working on was that palm never facing the ground. The second that palm faces the ground early, that's my rollover swing. So literally all he was doing, regular bat, boom. And I played with JD Martinez. Every time I walked in the cage, that's all I saw him doing, was getting to his launch position, wouldn't load, wouldn't stride. All he would do is take a bat, punch that palm, punch that palm. We're just trying to drive that palm up through the big part of the field and not let it face the ground. Vertical bat angle is kind of more one of those analytics words, but actually it's pretty important. I read a book, probably 2015, and it said the 5 best hitters at that time, I forget who it was, I think it was Joey Votto, Freddie Freeman, Mike Trout, Miguel Cabrera, and I can't remember who the 5th one. They had the 5 steepest vertical bat angles in baseball, and they were the 5 best hitters in OPS in baseball that year. So I kind of said, all right, well, if those 5 guys are at the steepest vertical bat angles and they're the 5 best hitters, vertical bat angle must be pretty dang important. So it just gives you more room for error. That right there, so that would be 0. The steeper that bat is, the more that bat's working up through the big part of the field. Like I said, it gives you room for error because when the bat's coming through super flat, I've really only got one contact point and one path for success. Whereas if that bat's working through here, I have what's called adjustability to where I can hit multiple pitches. And a good kind of way to visualize that vertical bat angle is getting that knob working up towards the opposite gap. If that knob starts working towards the pull side, that bat's going with it. Right? If I can get that knob working up towards the opposite gap, it's going to help me achieve that vertical bat angle. You'll see these pictures here. Probably the 3 best hitters in baseball this past year. Right before contact, vertical bat angle, vertical bat angle, vertical bat angle. Right? And occasionally, guys will take bad swings and you'll see the bat flat at contact. They might have success, but for the most part, generally speaking, you're going to see that bat have a little bit of a tilt at contact.
Got a question.
Yes.
Would you encourage the bat to be more vertical or less vertical for, like, say, a middle school kid or ninth grader?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm working with a 10-year-old, I'm probably not going to get too into the weeds about vertical bat angle. It's more about the base of the swing, the getting to a good launch position, using your legs, staying inside the ball. And when you start getting guys that are a little more advanced, you can start teaching more stuff like this. But I mean, if it's a good player and you think he can handle it, it's not the worst thing in the world. So some drills I like to do to work on the bat path. My routine, my personal hitting routine, probably the last 5 years, every single day I got in the cage, start on the tee, I do short bat while I'm working that vertical bat angle up towards the opposite gap. Top hand working on the punching, and then 2 hands with the short bat's really good because it forces your chest and your head to stay closed and not pull off with that short bat because short bat's only about that long. If I'm pulling off the ball with 2 hands on the bat, I'm not even going to make contact with it. But just kind of, and I like to alternate with them just to feel the rhythm. Go short bat, top bat, 2. That was just part of my routine, working up the white line, making sure I'm staying tight with the ball. Slap shot drill, I'm sure a lot of people in here know what that one is, where you separate your hands and you kind of do the hockey type swing. 3/4 stick finish. We want the end of the bat kind of facing at its furthest to pull that gap. I wish I could demonstrate some of these, but we're sticking that finish right here to help improve my bat path, and I'm not having anything fly towards the pull side net. Contact stops. This was a really cool one I picked up from Christian Walker. He would do this on the machine a lot when we were hitting in the off season. You're taking a regular full speed swing, but you're literally trying to stop at contact. And he would do this to check how vertical his bat was and make sure that ball's coming off with good true ball flight. Whereas if he stopped and that bat was perfectly flat, the ball's coming down, he's probably getting out away from his body, We really want it to be, boom, I'm right here, I'm checking my ball flight, I'm able to, it also trains my body to be able to stop and start really fast. You gotta be able to use your core on this drill. And a lot of hitting truly is being able to start and stop really fast with your core, right? If I'm unable to stop my core, everything's going that way. I want to be able to stop my core, boom, to be able to get some power right there. So those are three really good drills to just check where your hands are at contact, and check that vertical bat angle. So this is kind of the controversial topic of the day, hitting, right? Talking here about teacher man, talking about all the coil and all that. I do believe in some of it. Some of it I think is extreme. But you see here, engaging your back hip. One of the biggest problems we can have hitting is when I just fall forward and I can't control this forward move and I'm in this position on my front side. And I struggled with this tremendously. It was tough. But learning how to stay into your back hip, and I do think, something I tried to think about was kind of sticking as a righty, my right butt cheek back behind me to kind of get that ab crunch. I had a hitting coach tell me, when you load, I want you to think about crunching your abs to get that spine angle and get into that back hip. And trying to connect the head and chest to the back leg. You can see this video of Aaron Judge. I pulled it on YouTube and paused it at 3 different points. Pause it at the load, pause it at launch, pause it after. You can see his head and his chest connected to the back leg at all 3 spots. Same thing. What that tells me is at no point is his chest and head ever going with the front foot. It's staying connected to that back leg, and he's able to turn and fire from behind the ball. And it takes a lot of work to be able to do this. Like I said, I think some of it is a little extreme when you see it on social media and such, but I do think there is some credence to some of it. That controlling the forward move, reaching with the front foot and not falling onto the front foot, and making sure I'm keeping my chest back and turning behind the ball. Turning behind the ball is key. You freeze any big league hitter at contact, rarely are you ever going to see their chest, even with the bat. You're going to see a turn behind the ball right there. And there's a couple drills we'll get into that kind of work on that coil feeling. First one's a 45-degree open stance. Do this on flips. So what you do is your right foot stays normal, kind of open up their body to make a 45-degree angle. You're kind of just facing, on flips or whatever, and all you're doing from here is you're coiling into that back hip and firing from behind the ball. And you're learning how to fire with this back hip. Launch, coil, and fire. These next 2 I really like. I don't know the names of them, so this is just kind of what I came up with. So all you do on the second one is you're connecting your head and your chest to this back leg. You've got barely any weight on this front foot. You're just kind of bouncing that front foot. Then when he flips, all I'm doing is coiling. Same thing, firing from behind the ball, trying to reduce that forward chest falling onto my front foot. And when you take these things into a game, they're not going to be that extreme. The purpose of the drills, if it helps me keep my chest back that much, it was a successful drill and not that forward falling feeling. The balance and reach is very similar to the one before. That one again, I'm connecting my head and my chest, and I'm just holding my front foot up. When my partner flips it, I just kind of reach and fire from behind. Very similar. I just want to try and control that forward move and swing from behind the ball. Last 2, everyone's probably familiar with. Just to try and engage that back hip. Step behind, put my feet close together, step behind. This is really good for controlling my direction through the big part of the field. Not pulling off the ball, and again, engaging that back hip. Step into, that's where I step back away from the plate. Say the plate's right there. First step with that right foot, get into this hip, control my direction again. So those are just 4 or 5 different drills that are all geared towards making sure I'm engaging my front hip. What I kind of look for when I'm flipping to kids, if the flipper's out front, if their hips aren't changing angles, that means their hips are just swaying this way. Whereas if I can see that action, their backside going back behind them, now I know they're engaging into that back hip and getting that coil feeling. Here's a couple videos you can see. That right there is what I was talking about with Trout. You don't see his hips staying in the same silhouette. You see him changing angles. Yelich does it really good. You see the angle of his hips closed off. And then that Manny Machado one, front foot's going forward, but that back hip's working back that way. So like I said, this is kind of kind of a controversial topic in hitting right now, but I do think a lot of it has some credence and more the general concept of I want to try and fight the feeling of falling forward on my front foot and making sure I have some power and some weight in this back hip. Just some general thoughts before I finish up. Again, mechanics, easy ways to think about it. I want to turn behind the ball, control that forward move, big part of the field. Those are the simple swing thoughts there. On approach, stay on the fastball, master the strike zone from a young age. I can't harp on that enough, how important it is. If you got a kid that swings his strikes for the rest of his life, that kid's numbers are going to skyrocket, right? Control those three controllables. Did I swing a good pitch? Did I get my best swing off? Was I ready? Was I on time? And compete. Compete. Like I said earlier, it's the hardest skill in all of sports. Find ways in your training in the cage or in team settings to put guys in competition. All right, bring out those competitive juices. Talked earlier about the 80-20 rule. We want it to be, I want to challenge myself. Probably early in my career, we didn't do this enough. It was kind of a lot of flips, BP on the field, feel good. And now we're realizing, crap, guys are throwing 102 miles an hour and everyone's throwing 96 plus. Everyone's got a nasty slider. I've got to train this in the cage. I don't care if I swing and miss and make myself look foolish. The only way to replicate it in the cage is I got to try and challenge myself, right? Lastly, you got to be strong to play this game. I tell the story all the time. We were in a rain delay in Chicago playing the White Sox. And every dugout in the big leagues has the opposing team's roster on it. And we were just sitting there, talking, and I looked over at the roster. 26-man roster. All 26 guys on the White Sox at that time were 6 foot and up and 220 pounds or more. I mean, guys you don't realize on TV, they're big and strong. At the high school level, challenge your guys in the weight room. You got to be strong to play this game, taking care of your body nutrition-wise. If you want to be good at this game, it takes a lot of sacrifice, right? If you just want to play at high school and then go to college, but if you want to play at the next level, it takes a lot of sacrifice, a lot of diligence, and a lot of discipline to get there. But again, this talk is going to be a little bit shorter, but just wanted to harp on some of the couple absolutes I believe in. Good launch position, bat path, staying inside the ball. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat when it comes to hitting. What I talk about is going to be a whole lot different than what somebody else talks about. At the end of the day, we're trying to get results for our hitters, and that's what matters. But I want to thank you all again for allowing me to talk yesterday and today. If you got any questions, again, here's my contact information. Happy to answer any questions at any time. Reach out to me whenever if I can be a resource to your program at all. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer them. But if not, thank you all again for having me.
Got any questions at all? For Grayson, please ask. Yeah, go.
The vertical bat, you capture a picture from the side, you say a good way to see if they're in the proper position would be that matches their shoulders.
Yes, matching the shoulder plan is a really good one because you're obviously on a high pitch, your vertical bat angle is going to be a lot different than on a low pitch. It's just more about the average of it. A really good view of it is kind of a front angle view. Like when I'm flipping to guys, you can really see how the bat's coming through the zone. I'll see if that bat's completely flat and working this way, or if that bat's getting inside and up through the ball. But if on a still frame, I think the front angle is a little bit better. All those pictures I had with side angle, I should have got some front angle ones. But yeah, that's a good point. The angle of the shoulder is generally going to dictate what the angle of that bat is. Whereas, like I said, if it's a high pitch, it's probably going to be a little bit of a flatter angle.
Questions, anybody?
All right. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.